being a younger person living in a very specific white suburb and not knowing that I was going to fit into the norm, gender and sexually. That's a traumatic thing to go through, and that really wasn't really weighed so much in terms of therapists and psychiatrists. It was more like, we understand what you're saying because it fits this illness model. I can own that, you know, I had like a lot of traumatic experiences as a child and as a teenager that led to things being considered mental illness, but I could never fully own the fact that I was ill. And this day, I certainly reject that. I prefer to talk about people having extreme states, people with lived experience. These things leave the stories that people might bring to share much more open to their own choices. Mental health system or mental health issues, it keeps it very focused on medical deficiencies in my mind, and that's really not a reality for me. What is being able to connect with people that have been through similar struggles, been through suicide or been through the feelings of wanting to annihilate yourself. That's a heavy thing that I think most people in the world experience. For some people it becomes something to alienate them from a lot of other people. So when it affects people so much to the point where they need to drop out of the normal society, so to speak, it's amazing for me as someone that identifies with that to be able to connect with other folks that have had that experience, and being in a peer support community around talking about things that are ordinarily taboo, for instance, like suicide, has given me, in the past 2 years, not only the will to want to not do harm to my body in the same way, and the idea that there is a future there for me, but also it's talking about it, talking about our accounts and our feelings about suicide, and also the ways that we've found liberation through getting working through these crises, has in turn made me feel less suicidal in general. It might not make sense to a lot of people that talking about these things with other people could in fact bring about, I don't know, a more fulfilled life for someone, but that's certainly what's happened. And no amount of medication, no amount of therapy in the traditional individual sense has ever done that for me. There is no blood test for bipolar disorder, at least I've not seen one for myself. There is for diabetes perhaps, but there's nothing to isolate in the blood that would be like, oh, that's a bipolar, electron or whatever. Or 2,500 grains of suffering sand. It felt like there was a huge chunk of my pretty young life that was just lost, that I had to just forget about. But when that comprises a third of your life, it's really hard to just forget about this stuff. So the ability to kind of not only salvage those memories and transform them into ways of connecting with people instead of ways of feeling sorry for myself or ways of rehashing, feeling shameful or just feeling hopeless. That's what's pretty powerful, I think. But what I do think would really help not only the people that get pulled into the mental health system, and also might help the people that are the so-called professionals in the system, is more of an understanding that no one is omniscient. No person with a PhD or a medical degree necessarily knows what's better for another person than that person themselves. There's a lot of, I think for me, what I've experienced in the mental health system has been less of a legal commitment of my body to hospitals or to being injected with drugs, and more of sort of like a moral seizure of saying you're not um, you're not worthy of knowing how to live your life because you've come to us for help, basically. And so I think what could help on a systems level is just more of an understanding that sometimes you have to work from the principle that you don't know. And people, to some extent, can be the authorities on their own lives, but there is certainly a lot keeping people from reaching that point of empowerment when they're being overly medicated, they're being told they're worthless. And frankly, when they're being told that we know what's going on in your life because we have the books to prove it and we have the evidence to prove it, which frankly isn't true.